Most people don't have a reaction problem, they have a control problem. Someone says one wrong sentence and suddenly your mood changes. Someone criticizes you and your chest tightens before your brain even catches up. Someone disrespects you and your words come out faster than your thoughts. And afterward, you replay the moment. You wish you had stayed calm. You wish you had said something stronger or maybe nothing at all. Here's the truth most people never learn: reacting is natural, but living in reaction is dangerous. Because when you react automatically, you give other people control over your emotions, your energy, and sometimes even your decisions. The strongest people in the room are not the loudest. They're not the fastest responders. They're the ones who can pause when everyone else is exploding. Your brain is wired for survival, not peace. When it senses threat, whether it's physical danger or emotional discomfort, it pushes you toward immediate action. Fight, defend, probe, attack, explain, justify. But survival mode is not leadership mode. Survival mode is not confidence. Survival mode is not power. If you want to stop reacting, you must first understand something. Most people ignore. Your reaction is not caused by the other person. It's caused by the speed between the trigger and your response. And that speed can be trained. There is a tiny space between what happens to you and how you respond to it. Most people rush through that space without noticing it even exists. But that space is where emotional control lives. That space is where respect is protected. That space is where confidence is built. Training your brain to stop reacting starts with slowing down your body. Your breathing changes your nervous system faster than your thoughts ever will. When your breath becomes shallow and fast, your brain prepares for conflict. When your breath slows, your brain receives a signal that says, "You are safe enough to think." That's why controlled breathing is not weakness. It is neurological strategy. It is emotional discipline. Another truth most people struggle to accept is that not every moment deserves your response. Silence is not losing. Silence is selecting. Silence is deciding whether the moment deserves your energy. People who react to everything become predictable, and predictable reactions are easy to manipulate. When others know they can trigger you, they gain influence over you. But when you become calm in moments that usually create chaos, people lose their ability to control your emotional state. Your unpredictability becomes your strength. Stopping reactions also requires understanding emotional triggers. Triggers are rarely about the present moment. They are echoes of past experiences. A certain tone reminds you of disrespect. A certain phrase reminds you of rejection. A certain behavior reminds you of feeling powerless. When you react strongly, it is often your past speaking through your present. Training your brain means recognizing the difference between what is happening now and what your mind remembers happening before. That awareness weakens emotional intensity. Awareness interrupts automatic behavior. Another powerful skill is learning to delay your response. You do not need to answer immediately. You do not need to defend yourself instantly. Confidence is comfortable with pause. Confidence is comfortable with thinking. When someone pressures you for a reaction, they are often trying to control the pace of the conversation. The moment you slow the pace, you take back authority. Strong responses rarely arrive fast. They arrive clear. People who react quickly often speak emotionally. People who pause often speak intentionally. And intention carries weight that emotion cannot sustain. There is also a misconception that emotional control means suppressing feelings. It does not. Suppression stores emotion. Control directs emotion. You are allowed to feel anger. You are allowed to feel frustration. You are allowed to feel hurt. But feeling something does not mean you must act on it immediately. Emotional maturity is not about having fewer emotions. It is about having better timing. When you train your brain to stop reacting, you begin to notice something unexpected. You stop feeling exhausted by conversations. You stop replaying arguments in your mind. You stop giving strangers emotional power they never earned. You begin choosing peace without sacrificing strength. And here is the transformation most people never expect. When you stop reacting impulsively, people begin respecting you differently. Calmness signals control. Control signals confidence. Confidence commands attention without asking for it. The ability to stay composed when others are emotional makes your words carry more influence. Your silence carries more presence. Your responses carry more authority. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you strengthen neural pathways associated with emotional regulation. Over time, calm becomes your default instead of your exception. Your brain learns that discomfort does not require immediate defense. It learns that control feels safer than chaos. Training your brain is not about becoming emotionless, it is about becoming intentional. It is about deciding that your peace is too valuable to be controlled by temporary situations or unpredictable people. The goal is not to eliminate reactions completely. The goal is to make your reactions chosen instead of automatic. Because the moment your reactions become choices, your life becomes direction instead of damage control. The strongest mind is not the one that never feels pressure. The strongest mind is the one that can feel pressure and still decide who it wants to be in that moment. Reacting is instinct, responding is control. The difference between the two often decides whether a moment strengthens you or weakens you. Reaction lives in speed. It happens before your thoughts fully form. It is the automatic surge of emotion when something feels threatening, uncomfortable, or unexpected. Responding, however, lives in awareness. It requires space. It requires intention. It requires you to step out of emotional autopilot and step into conscious choice. Human beings are wired to react. Long before society, communication skills, or emotional intelligence existed, survival depended on immediate action. If danger appeared, hesitation could cost life. That wiring still exists inside your brain today. When someone challenges you, criticizes you, disrespects you, or even misunderstands you, your brain interprets it as a form of threat. Your body prepares to defend itself. Your heart rate rises, your muscles tighten, your breathing becomes shallow, and your mind rushes to protect your identity, your pride, or your sense of safety. That is instinct working exactly as it was designed. But modern life rarely requires survival-level reactions. Most challenges today are emotional, social, or psychological. Yet many people still respond to emotional discomfort with survival-level urgency. They argue immediately. They interrupt quickly. They defend themselves before understanding the situation fully. These reactions may feel powerful in the moment, but they often create regret afterward. Instinct prioritizes protection, not clarity. Instinct wants to win, escape, or defend. It does not care about long-term consequences, relationship strength, or personal growth. Responding is different because it introduces control into the moment. Control is not about suppressing emotions or pretending not to feel something. Control is about deciding what deserves expression and when it deserves expression. When you respond instead of react, you acknowledge your emotions without allowing them to become your decision maker. You create a mental pause that allows logic, awareness, and self-respect to enter the situation before your words or actions do. That pause is where personal power exists. Many people believe strength is measured by how quickly they speak or how forcefully they defend themselves. Real strength is measured by how well someone can hold emotional tension without losing clarity. The ability to remain steady when emotions are intense shows mastery over yourself. Anyone can react. Few people can respond with intention when pressure rises. Control begins with recognizing emotional triggers. Everyone has them. Certain tones, words, or behaviors can instantly activate emotional discomfort. These triggers are often connected to past experiences, not just present situations. When someone reacts strongly to something small, it is rarely about the moment itself. It is usually connected to something deeper that the brain remembers as painful or threatening. Responding requires recognizing when the present moment is activating old emotional patterns. Awareness weakens automatic reactions because it allows you to separate past pain from current reality. Another important part of responding is slowing down physical responses. The body often reacts before the mind understands what is happening. Breathing becomes faster, posture becomes defensive, and tension builds quickly. Slowing your breathing sends a signal to your nervous system that the situation is manageable. That physical shift creates mental clarity. Emotional storms lose intensity when the body stops behaving like it is in danger. Control is often built through physical regulation before mental discipline even begins. Responding also requires patience with silence. Many people feel uncomfortable when conversations pause. Silence can feel like weakness or uncertainty. In reality, silence is often a sign of emotional maturity. It shows that you are choosing your words carefully rather than allowing emotions to choose them for you. Silence creates space for understanding. It allows you to observe the other person, evaluate the situation, and decide what outcome you actually want. Reaction seeks immediate relief, response seeks effective results. Another difference between reacting and responding is ownership. When you react, your behavior is controlled by external events. Other people's words, actions, or attitudes decide how you feel and what you say. When you respond, you take ownership of your emotional direction. You recognize that you cannot control others, but you can control how you interpret and handle their behavior. That ownership creates confidence because it removes the feeling of helplessness. You are no longer being pushed by emotions, you are guiding them. Responding also protects relationships. Instant reactions often create misunderstandings because they prioritize emotional defense over communication clarity. Responding encourages listening, understanding, and thoughtful expression. It allows conflicts to become conversations instead of battles. It reduces unnecessary damage caused by words spoken during emotional peaks. Relationships become safer when responses replace reactions because both people feel heard instead of attacked. Over time, practicing intentional responses rewires the brain. Neural pathways associated with calm decision-making become stronger. Emotional triggers lose their ability to create immediate chaos. Situations that once caused overwhelming reactions begin to feel manageable. Control becomes natural rather than forced. Emotional discipline transforms from effort into habit. Your first feeling is automatic, your second action is a choice. This is one of the most powerful truths about emotional control, yet it is one that many people misunderstand. The first wave of emotion that hits you in any situation is not something you consciously create. It rises from deep inside your brain, shaped by past experiences, learned fears, personal insecurities, and instinctive survival responses. It appears quickly, often before you even realize what triggered it. That first feeling might be anger, embarrassment, frustration, jealousy, fear, or hurt. It arrives without permission, without warning, and without asking whether it is helpful or destructive. The mistake many people make is believing that the first emotion defines their behavior. They assume that because they feel something strongly, they must immediately express it or act on it. But emotional maturity begins the moment you realize that feelings are signals, not commands. The feeling itself is automatic, but the direction you take after feeling it is completely within your control. When someone criticizes you, your first feeling might be defensiveness. When someone ignores you, your first feeling might be rejection. When someone disrespects you, your first feeling might be anger. These reactions are natural and deeply human. Trying to eliminate them entirely is unrealistic and unhealthy. What separates emotional strength from emotional chaos is not the absence of these feelings, but the decisions that follow them. The second action, what you say, how you behave, and how you interpret the situation, is where personal responsibility begins. That action determines whether your emotions control you or whether you guide your emotions toward something productive. Many people never realize they have this second step. They experience the feeling and immediately convert it into words or behavior. They speak quickly, respond aggressively, or withdraw emotionally without understanding that there was a moment where a different choice could have been made. That moment between feeling and action is small, but it is powerful. It is the place where self-control lives. It is the space where awareness interrupts instinct. When you learn to recognize that space, you gain the ability to shape your responses instead of repeating emotional habits. Learning to pause inside that moment requires practice. The brain is trained through repetition. If you have spent years reacting immediately to emotional triggers, your mind has created strong neural pathways that encourage fast reactions. Those pathways are not permanent. Every time you choose to slow down, even slightly, you weaken automatic reaction patterns and strengthen intentional response patterns. Over time, the pause becomes easier. The choice becomes clearer. Emotional control begins to feel natural instead of forced. Another important part of understanding this truth is recognizing that emotions often exaggerate reality. The first feeling you experience is not always an accurate reflection of what is happening. Emotions are influenced by perception, memory, and personal interpretation. A simple comment can feel like an attack if it reminds you of past criticism. A delayed reply can feel like rejection if it connects to earlier experiences of neglect. When you allow the first feeling to dictate your behavior, you risk responding to a distorted version of reality rather than the actual situation. The second action gives you the opportunity to evaluate whether your emotional interpretation is accurate. It allows you to ask questions internally. Is this situation truly harmful? Or does it simply feel uncomfortable? Is this person intentionally disrespecting me, or am I assuming negative intent? Is reacting immediately going to improve this situation, or is it going to create unnecessary conflict? These questions introduce clarity into moments that emotions often cloud. Choosing your second action also builds confidence. Confidence is not created by always feeling calm or secure. Confidence grows from knowing that you can handle your emotions even when they are intense. When you trust your ability to pause, think, and respond intentionally, you begin to feel less controlled by external situations. That sense of internal stability changes how you communicate, how you make decisions, and how you handle conflict. Relationships also benefit when you understand the difference between automatic feelings and chosen actions. People rarely remember your private emotions, but they always remember your behavior. Acting on the first feeling can damage trust, create misunderstandings, and escalate conflicts that might have been resolved peacefully. Choosing your second action allows you to communicate clearly, respectfully, effectively. It creates emotional safety in conversations because your responses are thoughtful instead of impulsive. This principle also encourages self-compassion. Many people criticize themselves for feeling negative emotions. They believe that experiencing anger, jealousy, or insecurity means they are emotionally weak. In reality, these feelings are universal and unavoidable. Emotional strength is not about eliminating them. Emotional strength is about handling them responsibly. Accepting your first feeling without shame allows you to focus your energy on improving your second action. Training yourself to recognize this pattern changes how you experience life. You begin to see emotions as information rather than instructions. You become less reactive to external pressure and more connected to your personal values. Situations that once felt overwhelming begin to feel manageable because you understand that emotions do not trap you. They simply present choices. Every challenging interaction becomes an opportunity to practice. Each moment of frustration becomes a reminder that your first feeling may be automatic, but your next move belongs to you. Over time, these choices accumulate. They reshape your habits, strengthen your emotional discipline, and build a sense of personal authority that cannot be easily shaken by other people's behavior or unpredictable circumstances. Pausing rewires your brain to lead instead of follow emotions. Most people move through conversations and conflicts like passengers inside their own minds. Something happens, a feeling rises, and their reaction follows almost instantly. It feels automatic because, in many ways, it is. The brain is designed to move quickly when it detects discomfort, pressure, or perceived threat. It pushes you to defend yourself, explain yourself, or protect your pride. We have time to fully understand what is happening. This pattern creates a life where emotions lead and decisions chase behind them. The pause interrupts that pattern. It creates a space between feeling and action that allows your brain to shift from emotional instinct to intentional thinking. That space may only last a few seconds, but those seconds change the direction of your behavior. Without a pause, emotions act like a fast current pulling you toward immediate reaction. With a pause, you step out of the current and decide where you want to go. Your brain contains two powerful systems that constantly influence your behavior. One part is emotional, fast, and survival-driven. It responds instantly to anything that feels threatening or uncomfortable. The other part is logical, slower, and focused on long-term outcomes. It analyzes, evaluates, and plans. When emotions rise quickly, the emotional system often overrides the logical system. This is why people say things they regret, escalate small conflicts into major arguments, or make decisions that feel right in the moment but damaging later. Pausing allows the logical part of your brain to catch up. It gives your mind time to process information instead of reacting blindly. When you pause, you send a signal to your nervous system that you are not in immediate danger. That signal reduces emotional intensity and increases mental clarity. Over time, repeated pauses strengthen the brain's ability to prioritize thoughtful responses over impulsive reactions. The rewiring happens through repetition. The brain changes based on patterns. If you consistently react instantly, your brain strengthens pathways that encourage emotional impulsiveness. Those pathways become easier to follow, making quick reactions feel natural and almost unavoidable. When you begin practicing pauses, you start building new pathways associated with emotional regulation, patience, and awareness. At first, pausing feels uncomfortable because your brain is not used to it. It may feel like hesitation or weakness, but with practice, the pause becomes smoother, faster, and more natural. Pausing also increases self-awareness. When you stop reacting immediately, you gain the ability to observe your emotions instead of becoming controlled by them. You begin noticing physical signals that appear before emotional reactions fully develop. You might notice your heart beating faster, your shoulders tightening, or your breathing becoming shallow. Recognizing these signals gives you early warning signs that emotions are rising. Early awareness makes control easier because it allows you to regulate emotions before they reach overwhelming intensity. Another powerful effect of pausing is that it changes how other people perceive you. People expect emotional reactions, especially during disagreements or stressful conversations. When you remain calm and thoughtful, it creates a psychological shift in the interaction. Your composure often lowers the emotional intensity of the other person. Calm behavior communicates confidence and stability. It shows that you are not easily controlled by external pressure. This type of presence carries authority without needing to raise your voice or dominate the conversation. Pausing also protects your relationships. Many conflicts are not caused by differences in opinion, but by emotional reactions delivered too quickly. Words spoken during emotional peaks often carry harshness, defensiveness, or misunderstanding. A short pause allows you to choose words that communicate clearly without escalating tension. It allows you to respond with respect even when you feel challenged. Relationships become stronger when communication is guided by intention instead of impulse. Another important benefit of pausing is that it strengthens decision-making. Emotional reactions focus on immediate relief. They seek to reduce discomfort quickly, often without considering long-term consequences. Thoughtful responses, however, consider outcomes beyond the present moment. Pausing allows you to ask yourself whether your response aligns with your values, goals, and self-respect. It allows you to choose actions that support your growth instead of actions that simply satisfy temporary emotional pressure. Many people believe leadership means controlling situations or influencing others. True leadership begins with controlling yourself. When you lead your emotions instead of following them, you develop consistency in your behavior. Consistency builds trust. People feel safer communicating with someone whose reactions are steady and predictable. Emotional stability becomes a form of quiet strength that influences others naturally. Pausing also helps you separate emotional intensity from truth. Strong emotions can create the illusion that your interpretation of a situation is completely accurate. Taking a moment to pause allows you to question that interpretation. It gives you time to consider alternative perspectives, gather more information, or recognize misunderstandings before they turn into conflict. Over time, the practice of pausing transforms how your brain processes emotional situations. What once triggered instant reactions begins to trigger reflection. Situations that once felt overwhelming begin to feel manageable. Emotional discipline becomes less about forcing control and more about natural awareness. The brain learns that intense feelings do not require immediate action. It learns that clarity is safer and more effective than speed. Each pause you take strengthens your ability to guide your emotions instead of being pushed by them. Each intentional moment builds mental pathways that support patience, clarity, and confidence. The more you practice pausing, the more your brain adapts to value thoughtful leadership over emotional following. Self-control strengthens confidence, influence, and inner peace because it shifts power from the outside world back into your hands. Many people search for confidence by trying to change how others see them. They focus on speaking louder, proving themselves more often, or gaining approval from people around them. But true confidence is not built through external validation. It is built through internal stability. The moment you realize that you can manage your emotions, your reactions, and your behavior regardless of circumstances, you begin to trust yourself at a deeper level. Self-control creates confidence because it removes unpredictability from your own behavior. When you cannot control your emotions, you never fully trust how you will react under pressure. You might worry about losing your temper, speaking impulsively, or making decisions you regret later. That uncertainty weakens your sense of personal strength. When you practice self-control, you begin to see that you can experience strong emotions without losing clarity. You can face difficult conversations without losing composure. You can stand in uncomfortable situations without feeling overwhelmed. That realization builds a quiet, unshakable confidence that does not rely on circumstances going your way. Confidence built through self-control is different from surface-level confidence. Surface confidence often depends on success, approval, or feeling prepared. It can disappear when situations become challenging. Confidence built through emotional discipline remains steady because it comes from self-trust. You begin to believe that no matter what situation appears, you can handle your response to it. That belief creates calm strength. You no longer feel controlled by other people's behavior or unpredictable events. You feel grounded in your ability to remain stable even when situations are unstable. Self-control also strengthens influence. Influence is not created by dominance, aggression, or loud authority. True influence grows from credibility and emotional stability. People naturally listen more closely to individuals who remain calm under pressure. Calmness signals control, and control signals reliability. When someone shows emotional discipline, others begin to trust their judgment. They believe that person is thinking clearly rather than reacting emotionally. That trust gives their words more weight, even when they speak quietly. People are also drawn to emotional steadiness because it creates psychological safety. When individuals know they can communicate without triggering unpredictable reactions, conversations become more open and honest. Self-controlled individuals often become natural leaders because others feel comfortable sharing ideas, concerns, and opinions around them. Emotional stability creates an environment where people feel respected and heard, which strengthens connection and cooperation. Another powerful aspect of influence created by self-control is unpredictability in reactions. People who react emotionally become easy to manipulate because their responses can be predicted. If someone knows they can trigger anger, defensiveness, or frustration, they can control the direction of conversations. Self-control removes that predictability. When your reactions are thoughtful and measured, others cannot easily push you into emotional corners. That control over your responses gives you quiet authority in interactions without needing to assert dominance. Inner peace is perhaps the most profound benefit of self-control. Many people live with constant emotional exhaustion because they react to every situation, every comment, and every misunderstanding. Their mood changes depending on how others behave. Their energy is drained by arguments, overthinking, and replaying conversations in their minds. Self-control reduces this emotional chaos by allowing you to choose which situations deserve your attention and which ones do not. When you develop emotional discipline, you begin to experience situations without becoming consumed by them. You can acknowledge frustration without letting it control your day. You can hear criticism without letting it define your self-worth. You can experience conflict without carrying its emotional weight long after it ends. This selective emotional engagement protects your mental energy and creates a sense of calm that remains even during stressful periods. Self-control also allows you to separate your identity from temporary emotions. Many people believe their emotions define who they are. When they feel angry, they believe they are losing control. When they feel insecure, they believe they are weak. Emotional discipline teaches that feelings are temporary experiences, not permanent identities. You can feel something intensely and still choose behavior that reflects your values rather than your immediate emotions. That separation reduces self-judgment and increases emotional clarity. Over time, self-control strengthens resilience. Challenges become less overwhelming because you trust your ability to handle emotional discomfort. Difficult conversations become opportunities for growth rather than sources of fear. You begin to approach situations with a mindset focused on understanding and solution rather than defense and reaction. Resilience built through emotional stability creates long-term mental strength that protects your confidence and peace even when life becomes unpredictable. Self-control also improves decision-making. Emotional reactions often focus on immediate relief rather than long-term benefit. Acting out of anger, fear, or insecurity can create consequences that last far beyond the moment. Emotional discipline allows you to consider outcomes, evaluate options, and make decisions aligned with your goals and values. This clarity creates a sense of control over your life direction, which further strengthens confidence and inner peace. The connection between self-control, confidence, influence, and peace is deeply interconnected. As you gain control over your emotional responses, as your self-trust grows, others begin to trust you as well. As trust strengthens, your influence expands naturally. As influence grows without emotional chaos, your inner peace becomes more stable and lasting.